Today, there are more than 25 million people that have been forced from their home countries that are now scattered across the globe, the highest numbers seen since the end of World War II. Refugees flee their home countries to escape violence and persecution brought about by political turmoil, religious conflict, and wars.
Family.
Refugees endure traumatic experiences back home and along the hundreds and sometimes thousands of kilometers they travel to get to their host countries. While they hope things will get better once there, in most cases, it is a matter of trading one hell for another. Despite all that they have gone through, there is growing hostility towards refugees across the globe. While they may not deal with the overt hatred those in other countries endure, refugees in Eswatini experience clandestine but equally damaging hardships.
Some local Swazis, indigenous Swazis, when they see someone who is not speaking their language, they will just tell you, here are the Shangans. They will call them names.
This is the Mbaga Refugee Reception Center. It is home to more than 400 refugees and asylum seekers in Eswatini. Most are from war-ravaged Central African countries, including the DRC, Burundi, and Rwanda. Bongangile Mamba is the center's manager. She is responsible for the welfare of all here.
Upon arrival, you are brought, you make a declaration, you are given mattresses, blankets, like things like toothbrushes and everything that you can use, and then given a room to stay in. And then from there, you are registered. And
many of the refugees here have harrowing stories to tell about how they find themselves in Eswatini and away from their home countries. One of the families we speak to is that of an elderly couple from Burundi. They have been in Swaziland since 2009. We find them watching a DVD of gospel music videos from back home. Having lost their partners back home, they found solace in each other when they met at a refugee camp in Tanzania.
ndagenda
70-year-old Ngendankanzi Rameshia tells us he fled his country after he was arrested by militiamen who wanted to recruit him. He says the militiamen broke into his house and forcefully removed him from his family. When this happened, he warned his family to flee if he did not return home the same day. He was kept there for 4 days, until one day he escaped. Once free, he made for his home, but along the way he came across people who were fleeing his village, who told him his wife and 3 children had been murdered.
No, no, no.
For his current wife, Fereziya Kugaya, telling the story of how she ran away from Burundi leaves her overcome with emotion. She weeps as soon as she utters her first words.
Iwanje rero abana nukuri nashima Imana nukuri hari n'abagira neza bamfashije abana bo barasoma ishuri no gusubira Burundi. No, 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 no.
Her husband was abducted by government forces who accused him of harboring rebels, she tells us. She later found out they had killed him.
Baciye bamutwaye sinamenye sinabonye sinasubiye kumubona ndategera ukwezi kurahera barasubira baragaruka ati mpaka babicanye n'abana.
3 months later, she says they returned, and this time they killed every living soul indiscriminately.
Ako kana nagwiriye kaciye kamera amezi atandatu ndakavuza impunze yaho nyene twari mu mivyimba. Aho ubu nivyo mvuze neza nayo nkishika ngaho umutima wari uhagaraye wari umeze uko. Sinemera niyo bambwira ko hari amaro sinamenya ko nzoharonka amahoro hano. Sinamenya ko nzoharonka aho njyama nkaho niga. Ninzara gusa nangore ntukuri yapfiraga ko irambi.
What state of mind are they normally in when they get here after all the experiences?
Definitely, they wouldn't be normal. They wouldn't be normal, more especially because others, they've been through experiences whereby they've seen their parents killed, others have seen their husbands killed, and they have to go long routes, long ways, try to reach a place probably where they can be accommodated. And so others you may find which stay. As far as we do have one that is from Tanzania, we do have others that are from DRC. Looking at how far DRC is from us, then you can tell with these people they went a long route. Fortunately for us, we do have social workers here, and we also have the clinic whereby they are attended, and we are also having a psychologist from the Royal Eswatini Police Service, which is of assistance to us in cases whereby you may find that this is just becoming too much, or this person has been quiet for quite some time and in the long run he or she is being affected. Yes.
Would you say that most of these people that come here do need that psychological evaluation or assistance?
Definitely, they do. They do. Especially to build up somebody, trying to work on someone's mind or state, trying to work on somebody psychologically. People who've been through trauma, who've been traumatized by issues or by conditions that are touching. So what we have to do, we have to work on his mind, try to remove all the traumas that he has and try to make him feel at home, try to accommodate him, just give him the assurance that we are fine, we are secure, we are protected here.
Baragomba kunyanyasa bakanyanyasa ariko nkasenga Imana yaje yonyene gusa nibereye
She tells us she witnessed the killings of men, women and children, and even pregnant women, whose pregnancies were terminated in the most horrifying of manners. She says their bellies were ripped open and the fetuses were thrown in the streets, while the would-be mothers were left to die from the injuries sustained during this process. Of the 7 children she had, she only managed to escape with 3.
bonke banakufa lo family nalala lo balika kufa nalala lo nafana lo nalala lo haja abantu bariko barahunga babona ndiko ndakiru nibo bafashe bajya butana bajya bariko bariruka baca mu mizinga baca bahatubika impuzu
During our interview with her, she shows us a scar. This she says she sustained when she was stabbed by militiamen who stabbed her to ensure she was dead after she played dead under a mound of human corpses. Had she moved or squealed, she and her children would most likely have died that day. Despite having already had their fair share of hardship back home, in most cases, refugees are subjected to stigmatization. Surviving in a foreign land, they are met with a lack of empathy. Many consider them to be a burden to the country. They are thought to be criminals, people who have come to take jobs, an overburden, and already stretched public service. Though professing to having experienced better hospitality in Eswatini than any of the other countries she has tried to settle in, Farazia has not been spared from the humiliation and stigma that comes with being a refugee in Eswatini.
Banabuya niko natsengisa matamatisi byose bagapfanyanga bakagira uko no problema nahamba na chera birakati nabona birakati ndio niwe yari manager wa da agahamba ngo wena ngo fusaka birakati ngo wena ngo tunabachera ni banganga wani ngano ngo nawe nganga tu nabachera nimina ninanganga wani ngo wena nganga wani ndiyebo nawe nganga tu natwe khaya yethu tunakaya ngo wena Eswatini kwenu mina sikwangu ndikwethu ikwethu le Burundi aliko na wena unabuya unahamba le unahamba South Africa unahamba Mozambique nina mina tunafuna de kurara tu tunafuna do hakurara so kurara tu no problem timina do nina mina nabuya da nina kwani kayo aliko ari problem
Eswatini has a population of just over 1,500 refugees and asylum seekers. Though subjected to discrimination, some are a huge benefit to the country. For years, the country's health system has been relying heavily on refugees. Until recently, the country did not have Swazi specialist doctors. Most specialist doctors, especially those found at government health facilities, were and still are either refugees and or expatriates. These include Dr. Inyas Bikirimana, a Rwandan refugee who has been in the country since 2007. He is one of only 2 cardiologists in the country.
Every Monday I have a clinic and I see around 30 people every Monday. But it's not only Monday I treat for even in the wards. So I see them, even in the wards which are not medical, I see them. So it's not easy to to estimate the numbers.
Being the only heart specialist servicing the country's public health sector, he is the only one that is accessible to a majority of those who need his specialist skills.
So now, give me a sense of, before you came here, because we didn't have a cardiologist, you're the only cardiologist that we have within our government system for one, and the only other Swazi cardiologist that we have is working in the private, is in the private sector. What was the alternative people who needed your special skills?
Before I came, I don't know what we were doing, but probably the physicians who were there were trying to do their best. Yeah.
But they were not qualified as in that particular field.
Yeah.
These people are highly qualified, some of them. We have doctors, even specialists at Mbabane government. We have a heart specialist who's a refugee. We have general practitioners. We have engineers. We have French teachers in our local schools. But as I'm saying that some of our policies are conflicting, you find that some of them will come to the office and say, I was trying to get a bank loan, but I could not because I'm not a Swazi.
For refugees and asylum seekers to benefit the host country instead of depending on it, like Dr. Pikirimana, they need to be integrated into its society. That begins with them acquiring refugee status. Processing asylum seekers and giving them this refugee status has been riddled with hurdles in Eswatini. Before November 2018, the country did not have a Refugee Act. As such, more than a third of refugees in the country are still classified as asylum seekers. Classified thus, they are rendered incapable of fending for themselves. Until they acquire refugee status, asylum seekers cannot be employed or engage in formal business. This has led to what is known as long stayers being housed at the Refugee Reception Center.
Me, I'm from Tanzania, and I came in Swaziland since 2009. It was January. I was trying to tell a manager of the camp and say, you must go to apply. And then I went to Home Affairs. They gave me forms. After then, I registered the forms, and they told me that you must wait and then until a manager came from manager to tell you when. And then when I turned back, he said, you need the letter, and all the forms is there, and another form photocopy in my house.
The center, which was meant to receive asylum seekers, has now become their permanent home. As more and more asylum seekers arrive, the facility has become overcrowded.
Basically, looking at the accommodation part, more especially because you may find that it's a room probably accommodating about 4 individuals, people who are different, probably one, it's having a family. And okay, fine, in some rooms we try to accommodate others as make it look like a room, makes it look like a boys' hostel, where we have about 4 individuals. So we are talking of people with diverse backgrounds here. And one or the other, I think maybe there are many. Yeah, there are many.
While it was hoped the passing into law of the Refugee Act of 2018 would help address this problem, operationalizing it has proven to be a huge challenge.
We have signed unreservedly the conventions that say we as a country should receive
and protect
refugees,
refugees.
receive and protect them. But it would seem that there haven't been people that have actually been granted a refugee status in the country for quite some time. Explain to us why that is.
Okay, previously we had the ad hoc board, which we called Polasco. which was a status determination political committee. But since we had the act that commenced 1 November 2018, we are now supposed to be hiring refugee status determination officers who will be working from 8 to 5, working, interviewing asylum seekers, because when the asylum seekers come to the country, they first report themselves to the police, who record a statement and then take the asylum seeker to the Ministry of Home Affairs. They are supposed to be finding the status determination officers. When the act passed, the bill passed into an act, it coincided with the freezing of new posts. So this side, the act was commencing. On the other side, the Ministry of Public Service froze all posts because of the fiscal challenges that we have. So now it's difficult to implement the act.
Whether a benefit or a problem, refugees have no other place to go. They never chose to be here. This is a situation they found forced on them.
mashangani icho kintu kirambabaza